Grammy-nominated rapper Nipsey Hussle shot and killed outside his own clothing store in Los Angeles.
It was the moments leading up to a gun battle that killed Atlanta rapper Bankroll Fresh outside a Northwest Atlanta recording studio.
Tonight, Atlanta police searching for persons of interest.
Sometimes the gravest threat doesn't come from the unknown streets or a random rival. It comes from the very people you grew up with. In the rap game, stories of betrayal and heartbreak run deep. But few things are more disturbing than when a friend pulls the trigger. From rising stars on the brink of fame to legends whose influence still shapes hip-hop, these tragedies all share one brutal truth. Success and envy can be a volatile mix. Today we're exploring the grim reality of rappers who lost their lives to people they once considered family. Each story exposes hidden tensions, shocking twists, and questions that still linger. Let's dive into the first case. Bankroll Fresh.
Atlanta police releasing this new video to Fox 5. Investigators say this is just seconds before local rapper Trentavious White, known as Bankroll Fresh, was shot and killed last March outside the Street Execs recording studio.
Atlanta's hip-hop scene has birthed countless superstars, and for a moment, Bankroll Fresh looked like he might be the next big thing. Born and raised in Zone 3, he hustled before ever picking up a mic. Early on, he rapped under the moniker Young Fresh and connected with Gucci M and other industry heavyweights like Metro Boomin and Mike Will Made It. His tracks, For the Love and Screen Door, started buzzing across the city. By his early 20s, he'd earned cosigns from some of Atlanta's most influential names, and his mixtapes, Life of a Hot Boy and its sequel, set him apart from the pack. But what started as a typical night at Street Exec Studios in March 2016 turned into a scene of chaos. Bankroll Fresh was there, same as always, making music and hanging out with friends. That night, he crossed paths with No Plug, a friend from childhood. Their relationship had soured over the years, tangled in the typical stew of neighborhood drama, rumors, and bruised egos. According to No Plug's account, the tension had been building since the previous Thanksgiving, when both men organized turkey drives in neighboring hoods. Allegedly, Bankroll pulled up in No Plug's area without letting him know, and the gesture was seen as disrespectful. The tension grew over small stuff, like who was repping which block or who was messing with whose girl. Typical street drama that simmered until it hit a boiling point outside the studio. That night, the two men fought, rolling down the studio stairs in a tussle. Witnesses say others joined in, and it all could have ended as just another scuffle between old friends. But once guns got involved, everything changed. Surveillance footage showed Bankroll firing the first shot. Moments later, more bullets flew from multiple directions. In the end, Bankroll lay fatally wounded, and No Plug turned himself in. The authorities ruled it self-defense, and he walked. What began with two teenagers hanging out on the block ended in a hail of gunfire outside a music studio. Even after the case was closed, questions lingered. Did old jealousy spark the tragic end? Could someone have talked them down before guns came out? For Bankroll's fans, it's still a bitter pill to swallow, another life lost over what started as petty rivalries. But that wasn't the whole story of heartbreak in hip-hop. Lil Snoop.
Rising rapper Lil Snoop was allegedly shot dead this morning. He became a worldwide trend on Twitter this morning, along with James Gandolfini, the HBO star that passed yesterday. He was allegedly killed by someone he knew, and photos of a bloody body have surfaced on Twitter.
Next, we shift our focus to Jonesboro, Louisiana, where a young rapper with an unstoppable freestyle game dreamed of escaping poverty and putting his city on the map. Lil Snoop, born Darren Ross, had the kind of talent that legends in the industry instantly noticed. Meek Mill spotted him while performing at Grambling State University. After the show, Snoop knocked on Meek's van window and somehow convinced him to listen to his demo. Meek was blown away, signing him to Dream Chasers on the spot. Growing up, Lil Snoop knew hardship well. His mother had him when she was 15 and they struggled to make ends meet. Still, he never lost sight of his ambition. Within a short time, he was dropping mixtapes, collaborating with established names, and winning over fans with his raw freestyle ability. Tracks like Mellow revealed a voice wise beyond his years and a flair for storytelling that drew in listeners from all over. Sadly, just as fame was inching closer, everything unraveled in the most ordinary, heartbreaking way. On June 20th, 2013, he was hanging out at the Maplewood Apartments in Winfield, Louisiana, playing video games and gambling with a few friends. Tensions rose over a small bet. Some say it was $100. until it escalated into an argument that ended with Lil Snoop being fatally shot. Police arrested an older man named Tony Holden, charging him with manslaughter, armed robbery, and illegal possession of a firearm. But for some reason, the full story never neatly pieced together. Snoop's mother believes another individual, a younger guy called Lil E, was actually responsible. Lil E denies it entirely, pointing out that if he'd done it, the law wouldn't let him roam free. Meanwhile, Holden walked away with minimal consequences. Lil Snoop's case remains tangled in conflicting stories. What's clear is that he was unalive during a petty dispute over a video game, an unthinkable end to a life brimming with potential. For Meek Mill and Snoop's fans, it's a haunting reminder that dangerous impulses can strike anywhere, even among friends. And when the dust settles, you're left wondering if the entire tragedy could have been avoided with just a bit of restraint. Yet Lil Snoop's story is far from the only one that reveals how friendship can morph into fatal conflict. Big L.
For those of you,
Rest in peace, Big L.
rest in peace, Big L.
One of the
That was the
dopest. One of the
sensei.
dopest. Yes.
Big L was who put Jay-Z on.
Without question.
And then Big L died, and then the next thing you know, Jay-Z.
Travel up north to Harlem, New York, and you'll encounter the story of a lyrical genius whose name still echoes through the streets. Big L was a prodigy of wordplay, known for witty punchlines and a flow that was straight-up menacing in its precision. His debut album, Lifestyles OV de Poor and Dangerous, showcased raw talent that influenced the next wave of New York rappers. He even helped mentor artists like Cameron and Ma Dollar E in their early days. Yet despite his underground success, Big L's mainstream moment hadn't fully arrived. That all might have changed when he was on the brink of signing with Rockefeller Records. Then, on February 15, 1999, everything ended in a flash of violence. Big L was shot 9 times in a drive-by right outside his own neighborhood near 45 West 139th Street. Harlem was stunned. Who would want Big L gone? Rumors swirled that a childhood friend pulled the trigger, targeting him in place of his brother Leroy Big Lee Finizzi. Some say it was an act of vengeance for something Leroy had done. Others claim Big L was involved in his own hustle that robbed local dealers, and one of them decided to settle the score. A darker rumor suggests Big L and his brother had actually plotted against that friend, but he found out and struck first. The police arrested a man named Gerard Woodley, who was close with Big L back in the day. With little evidence, the case didn't hold, and Woodley was released. To this day, the murder remains unsolved. Whether it was a tragic case of mistaken identity or something more personal, the end result was the same. Harlem lost one of its brightest lights. Big L's crisp flow and innovative rhymes could have revolutionized an entire era of hip-hop. Instead, fans are left to speculate about the real story behind his final moments. But Big L's story, like the others, isn't just about a shooting. It's about betrayal lurking in the background, a sense that someone close enough to know his every move decided that his life had to end. That dark undercurrent ripples through countless tales in rap, including the tragic case of Chinx.
The latest on the investigation into the murder of rapper Lionel Pickens, known as Chinx.
Okay, police checking surveillance cameras in the area for clues, but as Lisa Evers tells us, now they have a few solid leads. She's near the shooting scene in Queens.
Born Lionel Pickens, Chinx grew up in Far Rockaway, Queens, a rough windswept peninsula cut off from the glitz of Manhattan. Even though his environment was harsh, Chinx had big dreams. He started rapping in junior high, but to survive, he eventually turned to hustling. He lost his father at a young age, and with his mother working nonstop, the streets were an easy fallback. He wanted more, though, pouring whatever money he made into studio time. By the early 2000s, he'd teamed up with fellow Far Rockaway native Stack Bundles, along with a few other locals, to form the Riot Squad. Their chemistry was undeniable, but so was the danger. The neighborhood was a hotbed of tension, and eventually Chinx got caught up in an attempted robbery case dating back to 1999. Right as Riot Squad was generating buzz, he landed in prison for nearly 5 years. Meanwhile, Stack Bundles kept pushing the group's name in the streets, but in 2007, tragedy struck once again. Stack was shot in the lobby of his own building, another bright talent gone. Chinx, still behind bars, could do nothing but grieve. By the time he got out in 2008, the neighborhood felt empty without Stack, but the impact his friend had made inspired him to keep going. It wasn't long before Chinx connected with Max B. For a moment, it looked like they could shake up New York's rap scene together. But Max B soon faced a legal battle that locked him away for decades. Despite that setback, Chinx found another mentor in French Montana. He joined the Coke Boys movement and quickly made a name for himself through relentless mixtape drops. Tracks like the remix to I'm a Coke Boy gave him citywide buzz, and collaborations with major artists suggested he was on the cusp of mainstream stardom. Then came May 17, 2015, a day that devastated hip-hop fans. After performing at a club in Brooklyn, Chinx left without any sign of trouble. Driving through Queens, he stopped at a red light. Suddenly, a black Mercedes pulled up and gunshots rang out. He was hit multiple times, managing to pull into a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot before succumbing to his injuries. It looked suspiciously like a planned hit. For years, no one was arrested, and conspiracy theories filled the void. Some speculated about old street beef, while others talked about jealousy from those he'd once helped. In 2017, 2 suspects, Quincy Homer and Jamar Hill, were finally charged, with prosecutors alleging a grudge that dated back 6 years. The sense of betrayal couldn't be clearer. Chinx had distanced himself from street drama, focusing on music, but envy and old resentments had quietly festered until they erupted in violence. The betrayal theme keeps repeating in the rap world, and it doesn't end with Chinx. Before diving deeper, let's rewind to the story of Stack Bundles, whose own death shook Far Rockaway to its core and left a gaping hole that even Chinx couldn't fill. Stack Bundles.
I always say, like, when you look at Jim Jones, those are like two. He had the dream team with them. Max B and Stack Bundles. Sheesh. Man, the rest in peace to Stack, as well as Chinx, too. And Chinx, you know, Far Rock, man, got some good rappers, man. I can't even lie.
In the mid-2000s, Far Rockaway was buzzing with the name Stack Bundles, an MC recognized for a razor-sharp delivery and a relentless hustle. He had an uncanny knack for collaboration, creating a synergy that drew in artists from various New York boroughs. Alongside Chinx, Bino, and Cow 2Gs, he formed the Riot Squad, hoping to propel Far Rockaway onto the main stage of hip-hop. Yet for all his promise, Stack never really moved out of the hood. He remained in the same building he'd grown up in, telling people he wanted to stay close to his roots. Even as he gained traction, recording with established names, he always returned to the place he knew best. Some tried to warn him that jealousy in those same hallways could become dangerous, but Stack shrugged it off, trusting his circle. One morning in June 2007, that trust collapsed under a hail of bullets. Stack was shot near the lobby of his own building. The city mourned, tributes poured in, and the rumor mill buzzed. Was it an old friend with an unresolved grudge? Was it someone who envied his newfound fame? The truth remains elusive, and that only deepens the sense of betrayal that looms over his legacy. For Chinx, losing Stack was a turning point. He nearly quit rap altogether. Ultimately, he pressed on, dedicating every success to his fallen friend. In an ironic twist of fate, Chinx himself would be targeted in a similarly methodical hit. Their intertwined stories reveal just how lethal hometown envy can be. And while the bullets were fired by different people, the root cause circles back to the same tragic cycle: local tension, festering resentments, and the danger of shining too brightly in a place that's not ready to let you go. The heartbreak of losing friends in the rap game isn't limited to New York. Detroit, another iconic hub, faced a similar tragedy when a D12 member who was instrumental to the city's hip-hop identity lost his life under circumstances involving people he knew all too well. Proof from D12.
Proof. That's how Proof was to me. Yeah, man. He was a godsend to me because I know that I would not have made it without knowing him, because he gave me he co-signed for me when I went to the shop.
For Eminem Detroit and fans worldwide, Proof was more than just a hype man or supporting act. He was the glue that kept Detroit's battle rap scene alive. Born to Sean Dupree Holton, Proof was a guiding figure in Motown's underground circles, hosting rap battles and nurturing up-and-coming talent. When D12 rose to fame alongside Eminem, Proof's charisma became a core piece of the group's identity. Despite the success, he remained loyal to the city. He frequented local spots, still throwing events to help younger MCs find their footing. But in April 2006, a night at the CCC Club on 8 Mile Road turned deadly. An argument broke out on the pool table, and in the chaos, Proof allegedly fired the first shot, injuring Keith Bender. Then another gun was pulled, and Proof was fatally shot by a man named Mario Etheridge, Bender's cousin. It's complicated to call Etheridge a friend, but the closeness of the entire group suggests these men weren't complete strangers. They ran in similar circles, and the club was a neighborhood hangout. Rumors flew about who said what, who pulled a gun first, and whether any underlying tension had been brewing. Ultimately, people who'd known each other for years ended up on opposite ends of a tragedy. Proof's death sent shockwaves through the rap world, and for Eminem, it was a devastating personal blow. The heartbreak was magnified by the sense that, once again, violence had erupted in a place that should have been safe, a local venue among acquaintances. Proof's loss underscored the same lesson we've seen in every story. Loyalty in the rap community can break down fast when aggression, weapons, and old beef are all in the mix. And no matter how beloved or talented you are, when tempers flare among friends, there's no guarantee you'll make it out alive. From the streets of Atlanta to the corners of Harlem, the rap world has seen far too many artists taken out by people who once stood beside them. Bankroll Fresh fell to a childhood friend turned rival. Lil Snoop never made it to his 20s because of a petty dispute over a video game. Big L's genius was cut short by an associate he'd known for years, while Chinks lost his life in a calculated hit reportedly fueled by a grudge dating back half a decade. Stack Bundle's tragic end only emphasized how dangerous it can be to stay in the same place you spent your youth. And finally, Detroit's own Proof, a mentor to so many, saw an argument in a local club escalate into a final fatal moment. In every case, there's a pattern of trust broken and loyalty twisted into envy or resentment. These stories aren't just about rap. They're about human nature, communities under pressure, and the devastating cost when pride, jealousy, and violence intersect. They remind us how fragile life can be and how quickly alliances can turn into enmities. For fans, these fallen artists remain legends, symbols of what might have been. Their music still resonates, each track now carrying an extra weight because we know how their stories ended. The next time you listen to a verse by Big L or blast a mixtape from Chinks, remember the cautionary tale behind the bars. Sometimes the greatest threat is the person who claims to ride for you. In a world where trust is currency, betrayal can be a death sentence. Thank you for sticking with me until the end. Let these stories inspire you to reflect on who's in your circle, why they're there, and how petty feuds can explode into irreversible tragedy. The rap game's losses are cautionary notes for us all. Keep these legacies alive by sharing their music, telling their stories, and honoring the talent they left behind. And whatever your grind is, stay safe, stay focused, and never forget how quickly everything can change when friendships turn sour.